Let's look at how distractions destroy our focus. Research shows that it can take up to 23 minutes every time you are interrupted to get fully back on track. Think about that. Just one quick glance at an email or at your instant messenger can almost eat half an hour of your day. Hi, I'm Chris LeBrun, your host of the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. As someone who's never been afraid of dreaming big and going for it all, I often find myself with a lot on my plate. I'm a husband and father, a nonprofit fundraiser, and an entrepreneur. What I've realized is my view of productivity was pretty toxic. After decades of believing that in order to do more, you had to work harder, I began to see productivity as this beautiful thing. Holistic productivity is the idea that you can accomplish your professional, personal, and purpose-driven goals in a healthy way, and doing so will make you happier and more fulfilled. Join me each week as we break down myths about productivity, share practical tips for maximizing your time, energy, and focus, and hear from others about their productivity journey. This is the Holistic Productivity Podcast. Hello and welcome to episode number 29 of the Holistic Productivity Podcast. My name is Chris LeBrun. I'm your host. I'm a productivity coach, and I am just so glad that you are here investing in your goals. This show is not just about doing more, not just about staying busy, not just about accomplishing a lot. It is about giving yourself the tools and the mindset that you need to achieve your goals that will help you live the life that you are dreaming about, whatever that is. And I'm just so glad that you are chasing those dreams and not just letting them die. I always say, dream big, plan smart, live fully, and that's what this show is all about. So thank you for being here, and thank you for spending this time today. Today, got a great show for you. Great topic. We are digging into the power of focus, why it matters, how distractions derail us from what we're trying to accomplish, and some of the tools and strategies that you can use to sharpen your focus in both big projects and in the small stuff. Now, this is a really important topic. Like I said, focus may be the number one reason that we are able to be productive, and lack of focus is probably the number one reason why our productivity suffers. There's a lot of science that backs up the need for focus and why it is so important. So let's try to define focus a little bit. What do I mean when I say focus? Let's focus in on what that means. Focus is defined as clarity and attention on what matters most. So it's not just that we are doing things and that we're getting things accomplished, is that we have clarity and attention on what matters most. We know what it is we need to do, and we are spending the time to do that. Let's contrast that with multitasking or fragmented attention. Imagine trying to write an important proposal versus answering Slack messages every 5 minutes, right? One gets things done at a very high level, the other drags on. And what's important to realize is that focus is a finite resource. You don't have unlimited focus, so we have to spend it wisely. Your brain has only a limited capacity for sustained attention every day. Just like your muscles fatigue after a workout, your mental focus wears down after extended use. That's why doing high concentration work first thing in the morning often feels easier than tackling it at, say, 9 p.m. at night. I know not everybody's body clock is the same, but for most of us, that's the way that it works. Decision making and switching our brain on and off eats into our focus budget. Every time you shift tasks, make a decision, or get distracted, you spend a little bit of that limited, finite resource. And eventually, your ability to concentrate deeply runs out altogether, even if you technically still have hours left in your workday. And I'm sure that we have all experienced that. Right after a day where you are just focused in on a task, you're drained. You have nothing left, and you're like, is it really still only 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Willpower and focus are also closely linked, and research shows that willpower is also a limited resource. It depletes with use, just as the ability to stay focused. That's why this idea of just pushing harder, just trying to lock down and do more is rarely sustainable. It's like expecting a runner to be able to sprint forever. Your body just cannot do that. So let's look at this practically. You may have only 3 to 4 good hours of true, deep work capacity in any given day. After that, you can still do tasks, but they need to be less creative. They're probably going to be shallower. You may have more errors in that work. So it's important to understand that as you are structuring your day, when are you going to work on those important projects where you really truly need to focus? Now, let's look at how distractions destroy our focus. Research shows that it can take up to 23 minutes every time you are interrupted to get fully back on track. Think about that. Just one quick glance at an email or at your instant messenger can almost eat half an hour of your day. That's insane, right? And it's not just time. A study out of the University of London finds that people who are distracted by emails and phone calls experience a temporary 10-point drop in their IQ. That is double the effect of smoking marijuana, by the way. Try going into the office tomorrow and telling your boss, answering all these emails, answering these phone calls, I might as well just be smoking marijuana, right? That's probably not going to go over well. But seriously, that is the impact that it has on your brain. Other research shows that multitasking doesn't actually make us more efficient. In fact, heavy multitaskers are often worse at filtering information and switching between tasks than those who focus on only one thing at a time. Here's the kicker. Constant interruptions don't just slow us down, they also raise stress levels, frustration, and mental fatigue. It's no wonder that when you protect your attention, you feel calmer, you feel clearer, and you are more productive. So the bottom line, distractions don't just steal minutes away from us. They steal clarity. They steal quality. They steal energy. And it is important to make sure that we are minimizing those distractions. Now, there are several different types of distractions out there that we can encounter. There are external distractions. These are those notifications, the emails, those constant, urgent, quote unquote, pings that we get through all sorts of different medium, right? We get them through text messages, we get them through instant messenger. All of those things are external distractions. Then there are internal distractions. These are the worry, the unclear priorities. Even boredom is an internal distraction. Here's an analogy for you to think about. Imagine that you're trying to sprint and somebody is tugging at your shirt every 20 seconds. You're never going to hit top speed in that situation. They're always going to be pulling you back, always going to be slowing you down. That's what distractions do. They don't just waste minutes. They compound into hours and hours of lost productivity if we allow them to. So what do we need to do to prevent that from happening? There's a great book by Cal Newport called Deep Work, and he introduces the idea of focusing in, having time where you are in a state of high concentration, free from distraction. He defines this as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. Now, in today's noisy, always connected world, our ability to focus is becoming rarer and rarer. At the same time, it's becoming more valuable to have focus because the economy is increasingly rewarding people who can learn fast and produce at a high level. Therefore, cultivating deep work is like a superpower for productivity and long-term success. These sessions of deep work create work that is high quality, there's fewer errors, and you have more originality. It has high value. It is harder to replicate and gives you that competitive edge against other people who are just throwing things together last minute. Deep work is also highly efficient. What might take 5 distracted hours can usually be done in 1 to 2 focused hours. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for this book, A Deep Work by Cal Newport. I highly recommend it. Some of the advice that he offers in the book to help you develop your ability for deep work is to build rituals and routines that minimize distraction. He actually encourages us to embrace boredom. And that will help us train our brain to handle stillness instead of constantly seeking stimulation. That's what has happened as we've had social media and all of these dopamine hits that we are constantly getting. Our brain is looking for stimulation. He talks about, trying to stand in line next time you're paying for groceries or whatever, and just putting your phone in your pocket, just standing there, being bored. And if we grew up in the 80s or the 70s, right, even some with the 90s, you probably had a lot of times when you were bored. There wasn't this constant stimulation going on, and that is actually a good thing for developing strategies and skills like deep work. Another thing that he mentions is quitting social media, or at least minimizing it and using it intentionally. Don't allow that digital noise to erode your focus. And I would add into that, again, just using your cell phone at all. There's games. All of these apps are designed to suck us in and make us spend more time on the app. I think about even the LinkedIn app now has games on there. And I tell myself every day as I'm playing those, hey, this is helping me, fight off dementia or Alzheimer's or something. It's actually helping my brain stay smarter, but it's also a waste of time. And that can keep us from doing this deep work. We also want to drain the shallows, minimize low value, shallow work like email and busy work that eats up your time and your focus. Now, deep work is great for those high priority, high reward projects, but not everything needs deep work. And so things like email and scheduling, calendar items, routine admin things can take a significant amount of time. Now, I call these things maintenance tasks, and they are often low priority projects when it comes to your time. They may have value and importance, but it may not be important for you to do, and it may not be important right now. That's because maintenance tasks siphon off focus from the work that truly moves the needle. So what can you do with these maintenance tasks? I mean, they still have to get done, right? One thing you can do is defer. Schedule all your maintenance tasks together. This is a batching method. And this can be a time when your energy levels are low and you're not going to have as much capacity for deep work. We don't want to compete with time that could be used for deep work. Another thing that you can do for these maintenance tasks is when you have smaller amounts of time, only maybe 30 minutes here or 15 minutes here, focus in on some of those things as well. That's making good use of those small amounts of times. If you're going to do these tasks yourself, make sure that you are time blocking so that your sessions don't sprawl and just take longer and longer. We can get caught up in these small little tasks, and pretty soon an hour, 2 hours is gone, and you have wasted that time. That's why planning your week is so important. Planning your day is so important. And if you haven't downloaded my free Sunday strategy guide yet, you need to do that today. It's absolutely free. I'll put a link in the show notes to where you can get that. All you need to do is provide your email, but that's going to help you plan your week. And it is formatted so that you can plan your week in every area of your life: professional, personal, and purpose-driven goals. Sunday strategy helps me build intentionality into my day. It helps me prioritize that deep work. I know when those projects are going to be that I need to focus on and allow more time. It's great for scheduling all of that. It takes away the mental drain of what should I do next. So again, a lot of great things, and I want you to have that. It's absolutely free. Check the show notes, find out where you can get the Sunday strategy worksheet. Now, let's go back to figuring out what we can do with our maintenance tasks. We talked about deferring those, and the other thing that we can do with them is delegating. Whenever possible, hand maintenance tasks off to someone else. Now, for me in my office job, that's difficult. I don't have an administrative assistant. I've never really had an administrative assistant. If I wanted to get something done, it was usually me doing it. That's also true for solopreneurs, right? Before you have enough revenue, maybe to justify paying somebody to be an administrative assistant. But if you have the ability, this is the best option for putting those maintenance tasks off of your plate and having somebody else do them. I've talked about the book Who, Not How, and that just underscores this idea that you don't need to do everything. And they even go on to say that there are some people out there who are made specifically to do your accounting. They are made to organize your calendar. That's what lights them up. And instead of draining you and taking your focus, allow them to do something that's going to light them up and give them satisfaction. The last strategy for handling your maintenance tasks is just to delete them. There are some things out there that you are doing, believe it or not, that probably don't need to be done at all. And they're not worth delegating to somebody else or deferring them to a later time. You could just delete them altogether. This is not just maintenance tasks. There are larger strategies, larger things that you are doing that may not be in your best interest because it's taking your focus away. In my Lego resale business, I was going once a month to a toy show. It was a lot of fun, but it was an hour and a half away. And I would spend the entire day practically on show days driving there, setting up, doing the show, tearing down, and driving home. And then the week before that, I was getting ready. I was packing my crates that I would take. I was making sure that I had enough new product so that I was going to have some new things at that show. It was a hard decision, but I finally decided that I needed to stop going to that show, even though it was bringing in revenue for me. It was bringing in profit, but it took so much time. And I needed to use that time for this podcast, for other things that I was trying to accomplish that were higher priority, and I needed to focus and do deep work on. So I cut that out. And I just started selling those products where I was already selling Bricklink and eBay. I just sold them in a different fashion and was able to cut that out altogether. I know that there are probably things that we do on the regular that just feel like they're important, but they're really not. And so if you can find those things, identify them, just delete them. Don't make anybody else do them. Don't defer them. Just take them off your plate and be done with them. In his book, Getting Things Done, David Allen talks a lot about the mental stress that we have from having too many open loops and how that can drain our focus. And so his solution for that is what he calls the 2-minute rule. And that's simply, if you identify something that needs to be done Close the loop by doing it. If it's only going to take 2 minutes or less, just do it right then. Don't put it off. Don't save it for later. Do it right away. You close that loop. It takes away that mental clutter, and it's done. It's, we're talking about a quick email, filing a document, confirming a meeting time, right? It just prevents those small tasks from stacking up and becoming this overwhelming pile, literally on our desk, but mentally in our brain as well. Now, a word of caution, avoid getting trapped in doing only quick things, right? Because that can, like I said, spiral, and now you are just doing a ton of 2-minute tasks. You're getting a lot of stuff done, but they may not be the high priority things. So what are some tools that you can use to stay focused? And this really is a skill that all of us need to practice and build up a tolerance for. It's like any other exercise. It takes a while for the muscle, your brain, to get used to it. Now, I've already mentioned time blocking. Make sure that you are using the big rocks method. What do I mean when I say that? Well, you've heard the analogy. If you have a jar and you want to fill it up with rocks and big rocks and small rocks and sand, and you don't start with the sand. You put the big rocks in first, and then the smaller rocks, and then finally the sand, and then you can still put some water usually in there on top of that, right? It's a great analogy, great visual analogy as well. But you want to block time for your deep work first. Again, these are largely your high priority tasks that have the most impact on your work. They're going to bring in the most revenue for you. They're going to move the needle the furthest. So schedule those first when you're time blocking. Then put the smaller, less important tasks and schedule those out. Then see what's left, right? Maybe you can find, 15 minutes here for, some of those maintenance tasks, and schedule all of that out for your days, for your weeks. That will help you immensely have focus. And then you got to stick to that. And that is hard as well, right? But stick to that time block schedule once you create it. Another technique that you may have heard of is the Pomodoro method, where you take 25 minutes and focus, and then rest for 5 minutes. Now, if that sounds like too much, maybe you have to start with 15 minutes of focus and 2 minutes of rest, right? But the idea is that you are training your brain to focus for that amount of time. And then as you get better and better at doing that, maybe you extend that out and you focus for an hour, and then you take 10 minutes off. And you focus for 2 hours and you take 15 minutes off, whatever that is. But we're training our brain. The key to this is getting right back to work and only letting it be 5 minutes of rest. I talked at the beginning about the research that shows it can take 23 minutes to get back on track once you're distracted. So that is the challenge with the Pomodoro technique. But if you are setting everything else aside, it can be a great way to build your focus muscle. Look at your environment. A clean desk can help you from picking up things and playing with them. Maybe it's too noisy in your environment and you need to get some noise canceling headphones, or close the door if you need really to focus. But those are things that environmentally will help you stay on track. And then there's the mindset tools. I already mentioned Sunday strategy, planning out your week, your day. All of these things are so important, especially if you're trying to reach goals in more than one pillar. And the Holistic Productivity Planner is built on this idea of taking away that mental load and being able to plan out your goals, your tasks in every area of life. So here's what I want you to do this week. Here's your homework assignment. You don't have to hand it in, but this is this is one of those things that you can do to really improve your focus. Pick one tool, one method, and try it out for a week or two. Just one. Don't try them all, right? If you want to do that, you can do that later on. You can try a different one out. But for a week or two, just try one of the methods that we've talked about today. Make sure that you're using it long enough that it becomes comfortable for you to be able to use that and use it effectively. And that will help you to know what works best for you. And it might be, that once you try several of these things, the right method is a little bit of this, a little bit of that. All of that stuff can be used together, but try them one at a time and see what works best for you. So let's recap what we've talked about today. Focus matters because it multiplies your results. Deep work brings high payoff in the quality and the quantity of work that you are able to do. And that's because we don't have all these distractions that are getting in the way and destroying our productivity. When you have small tasks, find time that you can batch those together so that you can knock them out when your energy is low, or maybe try applying the 2-minute rule and just knocking them out one at a time as they come across your mind. Look for the different tools that can protect your attention and find one that works for you and use that, whether it's creating a deep work session, applying the 2-minute rule, or just eliminating distractions altogether. Okay? That is going to make huge impacts and growth in your productivity. And I can't wait to hear how you implement that, what works best for you. But that's what we have for the show today. Thank you so much for being here. Check out the show notes. They will be at holisticproductivity.com/29. And again, we'll have links for the different books that I talked about, for the different methods and things that you can use to help you stay productive, stay focused, and take on that deep work. Make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. You can watch it on YouTube as well. And when you subscribe, when you follow, that just lets you be notified when the next episode drops on Tuesday. I know you're not going to want to miss that. That's another great show that we have lined up for you. So make sure that you subscribe. If you want to rate the show as well, that would be fantastic. I love seeing 5 stars. That lets everybody else know that you have found benefit in this show and they should listen to it as well. Make sure that you are following Holistic Productivity on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube, Substack. Make sure you find us there, not to waste more time, but to get productivity tips and motivation throughout the week. And I also want you to join us on School. This is a community for holistic productivity members. Again, a lot of great community sharing of ideas and practical tips being shared in the School community. Check the show notes for that as well, or you can find a link to that in any of our social media links as well. So thank you so much for being here, for listening in. Again, I appreciate you investing in your goals. I'm excited for you. And as always, my goal is to help you dream big, plan smart, and live fully. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.